England's second royal family, the Beckhams, are in meltdown. The bitter and vicious Cold War between David and Victoria Beckham and their runaway eldest son, Brooklyn, worsens. Now, it should have been the happiest day of his life. David Beckham, knighted by King Charles for services to sport and for being a fabulous global ambassador for the United Kingdom. But David, who's an absolute gentleman and a genius footballer, will forever be haunted by this image on Tuesday, which features his beloved wife, Victoria, one of the Spice Girls, of course, his handsome sons, Romeo and Cruz, and their stunning daughter, Harper. But Brooklyn is nowhere to be seen. He is notable in his absence. He's deafening in his silence. He is a no-show, and it's unforgivable. This is a shocking snub and a devastating move that destroyed David's special day. Now, it's once in a lifetime that you'll be knighted by King Charles, and that photograph is an historic document, and it does not contain their eldest son, to whom the Beckhams gave absolutely everything. But as with Harry and the royal family, so Brooklyn is an indulgent, spoiled brat who thinks that the world owes him something. His absence was quite shocking, but he's got previous on this, which we'll come to. Now, this young man, he is the eldest. He's 26 years of age. He ought to know better. He's a grown man now, but he fell in love with a pushy, controlling American actress. She turned him against his family, and he left the UK to live in the United States. Does that sound familiar? The parallels between the Peltz Beckhams, as they laughably call themselves, and the Sussexes are uncanny. They are two sides of the same coin. So this Brooklyn chap, exactly like Harry, he's got no job at all. He's a multi-millionaire thanks to the generosity of his parents. David, who made his money on the football field for Manchester United, Real Madrid and England. And Victoria Beckham, who is 1/5 of the Spice Girls, by far the most beautiful, a very, very talented lady, great dancer, great singing voice. And then she goes and has an incredible second career as a fashion designer, the Victoria Beckham brand, which is worn by some of the most famous women in the world. They are a very successful couple. And now David, if he puts his name to anything, he puts his name to an aftershave, to a whiskey, to a cigar brand, to a clothing brand, it doesn't matter what David Beckham puts his name to, it turns to gold. Everyone wants a piece of the Beckham brand. They've made a fortune through hard work and endeavour. Neither of them were born privileged individuals. Victoria's family were more middle class, but not filthy rich, and David's family were working class and struggled in order to help him to become a successful footballer. But it's an amazing story of social mobility, of the deployment of talent, and of plain old hard work. So now, the 26-year-old Brooklyn Beckham is cruising around Los Angeles in Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and he loves his motorbike as well, his Harley Davidson, all paid for by David Beckham. And he thinks that somehow he's the guilty party here, that the family have treated him badly and that he's going to ignore his father on the day of his investiture as a Knight of the Realm. It's the highest honour in the land. Sir David Beckham. Think of the people that have been a knight in their lifetimes. Sir Winston Churchill, the man who liberated Europe. Sir Paul McCartney, the man who sold 1 billion records. Sir James Dyson, the inventor of the bagless vacuum cleaner. I love James Dyson and I own a Dyson. I think it's a great device. And Sir Elton John, who in my opinion is the greatest musical composer of the last 100 years. And I can't explain. Right, we'll come to that. So it's shocking that for David to receive this honour, at which every single member of the family was present, apart from Brooklyn and his pushy wife, Nicola. Well, it's devastating and it's hurtful and it's so wrong. Now, what's happened is Brooklyn Beckham, by the way, Brooklyn is firmly, he has no job. That's the first thing to say. Exactly like Prince Harry, there's no job. He thinks he's a chef and he does these terrible recipes online, which always wind up horribly burnt and inedible looking. He's been widely mocked for a chicken dish in which he burnt the chicken to the point where that chicken was burnt to a cinder and largely carcinogenic. And similarly, his pizza making, which looks disgusting. Very unhealthy food, loads of sugar, white flour, fat, and the sandwich. He made a sandwich which was, again, risible. And he thinks he's Gordon Ramsay. Gordon Ramsay, he is not. So he hasn't got a job. What he does is he just goes on the internet, posts videos of himself on Instagram. It's crushingly embarrassing. And his wife, Nicola Peltz, does not need to work. She does these student films and these other little pet projects. She's quite interested in animals, which is fine. So she's kind of got a charity which involves the welfare of animals. Fine. But she's not bringing any dollars in. The pair of them are useless, unproductive ne'er-do-wells. And the only reason why they live in luxury is because Brooklyn is the son of David and Victoria, and Nicola is the daughter of Nelson Peltz, who is a billionaire financier, one of America's most successful entrepreneurs, who owns, wait for it, he owns a share in Wendy's. The Wendy burger, which it turns out, as revealed by Mark Dolan on the Mark Dolan show, is young Prince Harry's favourite burger brand. Oh, I love Wendy's. It's really good. I like Wendy because she's got red hair just like me and freckles, so we've got a lot in common, you know. And my favourite burger is the Baconator. I don't know why it's called the Baconator. I don't know what the ingredient is that makes it different from a regular hamburger, but I just don't know why it's called the Baconator. I don't know why they've called it that. Anyway, very nice. Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye. So, the two of them, the parallels between the Sussexes and the Peltz Beckhams is absolutely wild. And Brooklyn is firmly in Team Sussex after Harry and Meghan disgracefully sided with the disloyal runaway son. So what's happened is Beckham has run away, Brooklyn's run away from his family. And the first thing Harry and Meghan do, rather than sit Brooklyn down and say, listen, David and Victoria love you, your siblings miss you, go back to England and make up. No. Instead, they love grifters. They love people with a chip on their shoulder. Harry and Meghan love people with an axe to grind because that's what they're like. And Meghan's like, oh no, come here and we'll be a shoulder to cry on. Have you got an evil family as well? Have you tried calling all of them racist? That's a really good move. That'll sell a few more copies of the book. That'll get you a Netflix deal. So, disgracefully, having abandoned his family in England, Brooklyn comes to America and is shielded and protected by Harry and Meghan. And Harry and Meghan should have sent him back to his parents because, interestingly, the Sussexes and the Beckhams were previously very, very close. And we'll come to that shortly. But here's the truth. Brooklyn Beckham has previous on abandoning David and the family. Because David Beckham hasn't just been snubbed by Brooklyn for his knighthood. Earlier this year, David Beckham turned 50. He doesn't look 50. He looks about 27. It's extraordinary and unnatural. But David Beckham turned 50 this year, and there were several events to celebrate, and Brooklyn was absent from them all. Now, remember, Brooklyn, just like Meghan Markle, lives on Instagram. He's permanently on the internet, posting about his hideous recipes that are highly carcinogenic and toxic and inedible and unhealthy. And yet, this young man who lives on Instagram and whose iPhone is paid for by his incredibly accomplished parents, he doesn't say anything about David's 50th. No, happy birthday, Dad. I love you, Dad. Thanks for everything, Dad. Nothing. Nada. So David turned 50, and there were lots of different things that happened. It was a 5-day event for David's party. First of all, he had an event at the Cotswolds, which is where they've got a sprawling estate, and that's in Oxfordshire, and it's very beautiful and green and luscious countryside. So that's the first place that he failed to turn up. There was also a family trip to France, which Brooklyn decided not to attend. A Notting Hill restaurant meal in London, a boys' fishing trip to Scotland, and dinner at Cipriani, which is a posh restaurant in Miami, Florida. So the Beckhams were in the United States. They were in London, England. They were in France. They were in the Cotswolds in Oxfordshire. They were all over the world. And Brooklyn could easily have chipped into one of those locations with a suit and tie on and say, Pops, I love you. Thanks for everything. Or at the very least, some kind of post on social media, given that he lives on Instagram. Nothing from this spoiled brat. And it happened again this year. He was in London for a fashion shoot, just half a mile from where David was meeting King Charles at the Chelsea Flower Show. This was earlier this year. So there have been several times this year when Brooklyn's been in the same city. Just guys, process this for a second. We built this city. Brooklyn has been in the same town, the same city as his own father and doesn't pay a visit. So this was obviously the 50th birthday celebrations, Notting Hill. And similarly, David was meeting the king at the Chelsea Flower Show earlier this year, and Brooklyn was in town at the same time, and the traitorous brat that he is did not reach out to his father. It's unforgivable. Now, Nicola, I think, is the problem here, just exactly like Meghan with Harry. Nicola has seemingly, and of course the bottom line is she might be a very nice lady, and of course Brooklyn is big enough, old enough, and ugly enough to make his own life decisions. But it seems that Nicola has changed Brooklyn, who was a very happy, charming, friendly, joyful young man and a family man before the two of them married. But the moment that Nicola married Brooklyn, he suddenly started hating his country, started hating his family, and decided that he was going to go to the United States with his pushy American actress wife. So and it's exactly like Harry. Prince Harry was the most popular member of the royal family. Prince Harry was more popular than Queen Elizabeth II. He was a fun-loving, beer-drinking, military type who enjoyed shooting and having politically incorrect banter with his mates. Drinking beer, and chasing girls. That's what he used to do. And he completely changed. Meghan changed him. And Nicola has changed Brooklyn. Now, a lot of people are saying that Nicola is Meghan Markle 2.0. How could she not be? David and Victoria are said to have washed their hands of Nicola. Allegations that she's controlling and starts fights to stop Brooklyn seeing his family. And I don't understand it with these wives and girlfriends. Because let me know in the comments, but if your husband had fallen out with his family, would you not be endlessly telling him, hey, you got to fix this. You got to make this up. Blood is thicker than water. Your parents won't be there forever. Your parents have done a lot for you. Would you allow, if you were the wife of a guy who's fallen out of favor with his family, would you not be pushing for a reconciliation? I know I would. I would never stop about it because I would want my partner to be on good terms with their family, because the family won't be there forever, because that's the tragedy of life and your parents pass. And sometimes you lose your siblings. So every day together on this planet is precious, and it's being squandered as he makes his pizza and his burned carcinogenic chicken cruising around on his stupid Harley Davidson motorbike. He's not a Hell's Angel. He's just from hell, this young man. But it's our understanding that the Beckhams are still heartbroken over their lost relationship with their eldest son, and they've totally given up on Nicola, who they see as the bad guy. Well, let me tell you the background to this. So Nicola Peltz Beckham, originally, by the way, can we just dispense with this ridiculous taking of each other's surnames? Her name is Nicola Peltz. He is Brooklyn Beckham. What should happen is that they marry and she can either keep Nicola Peltz if she feels that that's very connected to her career, whatever career that would be, answers on a postcard, or she becomes Nicola Beckham. Okay, those are the two options which I think are reasonable. Instead, She's gone for Nicola Peltz Beckham, I suppose, because there's a couple of billion reasons why she wants to hang on to the Peltz surname. But it means that that idiot Brooklyn has now taken her name, which I don't think is what a man does. So he calls himself Brooklyn Peltz Beckham. Why have you taken your wife's name? That is not tradition. And that's not what a man does. I'm so sorry about that. But a man doesn't take, let me know, please let me know in the comments, because it's a free world. And the Mark Dolan show is a broad church of opinion. But I don't think the man takes the wife's name. I'm so sorry. And if you disagree, let me know and I will give you a fair hearing, because I'm all about opinions. But I don't think that the gentleman takes the lady's name. I don't. I actually don't. I think that he remains Brooklyn Beckham. Brooklyn, by the way, because he was conceived in Brooklyn. That's the hilarious backstory to his existence. And that's the point. He wouldn't even be here on the planet, literally, if it wasn't for David and Victoria. So where did it all go so horribly wrong? Well, it was, oh my God, it was the wedding dress. Because Nicola Peltz Beckham, married to Brooklyn Peltz Beckham. Brooklyn, I'm really clever. I'm called Brooklyn. And I'm a real genius. And I'm a multi-millionaire because of my Instagram and my burnt chicken, which is carcinogenic, and my disgusting pizza and fatty, rich, inedible food. That's why I'm a multi-millionaire. And it's got nothing to do with the fact that my dad was a genius footballer and entrepreneur and that my mum was both a Spice Girl and now an international fashion designer. It's got nothing to do with that. And it's all to do with my burnt chicken recipes. So you've got the wedding dress snub. You won't believe that. You will, if you're drinking tea or coffee right now or a soft drink, you might be enjoying a Long Island Long Island iced tea, because many people enjoy a cocktail when they're watching the Mark Dolan show. Let me know what you're eating or drinking right now. In Australia, this is very often, and New Zealand, the Mark Dolan show is breakfast, so it's coffee and it's scrambled eggs and waffles and toast for many of my Australian and New Zealand viewers. For many North Americans, it's a mid-morning or lunchtime snack. But what are you drinking at the moment? What do you like to drink with the Mark Dolan show? And let me be very clear. Let me say just this. You don't need alcohol to have a good time. I drink, but you know something? I just drink from time to time. De temps en temps, as they say in French. Pas tous les jours. Je bois de la bière. Pas beaucoup. Peut-être une fois pendant la semaine. Yes, you don't need alcohol to have a good time. You don't. I would say for me, a little tipple once a week's about right. It's about right. I think that's the sweet spot. And when I drink Budweiser, which is the king of beers. We know that because it says king of beers on every bottle and on every can. But listen, where did we get to the drinking? Yes, I will tell you that the snub is wild, because Nicola Peltz Beckham is getting married. She's originally Nicola Peltz, and her mother is an international fashion designer. And yet, you actually won't believe this, but Nicola refused to wear a Victoria Beckham dress on her wedding day. Now, your mother-in-law is a world-famous dress designer. You wear your mother-in-law's dress. You've got to. How can you not wear a Victoria Beckham gown when you're marrying into the family? That's wild. That's like marrying, I don't know, Christian Dior's second cousin and not wearing some Dior as a nod to the family, or Armani, or Calvin Klein, or any of those brands. It's wild. So it was expected that Nicola would wear a Victoria Beckham gown, either a Victoria Beckham wedding dress or a beautiful dress for the evening party. I don't think it matters. I just think you wear your mother-in-law's couture at some point during the day. If it was me, I would actually say, can I be honest with you, Victoria? You're my mum now. You're my second mum. And I'd like to wear a wedding dress designed by you. And I'd like to wear the evening dress designed by you. And then the next day, when we get into a soft top car and drive off into the sunset, I would like you to design that outfit too. And I want you to design the outfit for the family breakfast. I want you to design the clothing for the wedding rehearsal and the dinner beforehand, and the what they call in England the hen party, which is the bachelorette party in the United States. If I was Nicola Peltz Beckham, and let's be honest, I'm just a couple of very dramatic operations away from being just that. I've already got great legs, so I'm nearly there. I would. If my mother-in-law was Victoria Beckham, I'm wearing her clothes. But this Nicola Peltz Beckham can't even wear like an evening gown designed by her mother. At which point, I mean, Victoria's mortally offended, and it's a horror show. And that little upstart has shown her true colours. And so this is a horrible rift that started, and it's horrific. The wedding itself, by the way, was a hot mess. The wedding was a hot mess. Nicola's father, Nelson Peltz, who owns part of the Wendy chain. I really like the Baconator, but I don't know what the key ingredient is in the Baconator that makes it different from a regular hamburger, though. Nelson Peltz sued 2 wedding planners. Court documents leaked to the media included messages showing stress and dysfunction and lots of mistakes behind the scenes. So it's a chaotic wedding in which lots of people were upset, a lot of bruised egos, and 2 court cases. Absolutely shocking. And here's the thing. There is such a strong parallel between the Sussexes and the Beckhams. Don't forget that it was David and Victoria who introduced the Sussexes to the worlds that they now inhabit. So, for example, the Beckhams and the Sussexes were very close. Victoria opened her address book to Meghan when she came to the UK and introduced her to all the important people in the world of showbiz, entertainment, and fashion. And David steadfastly supported Harry's charitable causes, including Invictus. And don't forget, David Beckham can charge millions just to appear at an event. So for him to voluntarily, free of charge, lend his name and his support to a Prince Harry charity is huge and enormous. Don't forget, lots of you have said in the comments yesterday that you'd like Sir David Beckham to take over as the face of the Invictus Games over Harry. Anyhow, there was a hideous falling out because the Sussexes falsely accused Victoria Beckham of leaking stories about the Sussexes to the press. Do you really think Victoria Beckham, who sold 75 million records with the Spice Girls, first British band since the Beatles to break America, an international fashion designer with a net worth of $800 million between her and David, do you think she's calling newspaper editors going, hello, it's Victoria Beckham here, I've got some gossip about the Sussexes? I don't think so. Of course not. Leaking stories. Do you really think that Victoria Beckham has got so much time on her hands that she's going to do that? So, and then the allegation is that Meghan wanted free clothes from Victoria Beckham, which was vetoed by the palace, and it was another scandal. And I've got no doubt that Meghan did want free stuff because she loves her freebies. Look at that trip to Disneyland that they clearly didn't pay for. Were probably paid to go to Disneyland. So now the 2 families are barely on speaking terms. Ever since the wedding, it's been horrible. Tension between the clans is what they call it. Well, I'm so sorry. It's not tension between the clans. It is the awful behaviour of the Peltz Beckhams in relation to the Beckham family. This is why I don't like when they talk about the royal family and William and Harry and, Harry and Charles. It's not really a war because a war is 2 sides. It's a one-way war. From Montecito, California, Montecito. And it's exactly the same with the Peltz Beckhams. Reports claim that the Beckhams felt sidelined during the wedding planning. She didn't wear the dress the whole thing was a hot mess. But here's Brooklyn's side of it. Wait for this. Brooklyn feels that for years he's been belittled by his family. Well, belittled, what does that mean? Turned into a multi-millionaire and given a life of privilege and had his ridiculous little careers supported, like his cookery and his photography, where all his photos were out of focus. He claims that he was treated like an idiot. Well, maybe they were right about that. Claims he was talked down to growing up. Yeah, that's called being a child, Brooklyn. Claims that he believed he was breaking generational trauma. Here we go, folks. It's the woke handbook. I'm a terrible victim, even though I live in an enormous mansion in California. So the whole thing is wild. The whole thing is deeply shocking. And this couple, by the way, people have talked about it, and it's so true. They are basically Hollywood rich kids playing house, right? Pretending to be this happily married couple with no job, no bills, no responsibilities. And did you know that these fools, right, Nicola and Brooklyn, renewed their marriage vows after 2.5 years together? So they have a multi-million-dollar wedding, and then they have another multi-million-dollar party 2.5 years later to renew their vows. Now, when you renew your vows, it tells you one of two things. It tells you that the marriage is in trouble. Okay, because it's basically he doth protesteth too much. If you're renewing your vows, it's like, well, there was some doubt over the union, so we better have a ceremony to convince everyone that this is all going swimmingly well. Nothing to see here. That's why we're renewing our vows after 2.5 years. I beg your pardon. It's very unchristian, by the way, because actually, when you have your wedding vows, that is a vow, that is permanent. Under the eyes of the man above, that's your permanent vow. You don't renew it. You don't have to renew the will of God up there. The lovely man in the white suit with the long flowing white beard. I'm not talking about Father Christmas. I'm talking about the higher power. You don't need to renew. And if you renew the vows, you do it when you've achieved something. Like 25 years together, or 30 years, or 50 years. But I don't even give these two 50 minutes. It won't last. Exactly like Harry and Meghan. Brooklyn and Nicola, the Peltz Beckhams, will split, and they will split sooner rather than later. Watch this space. I'm putting them as well as Harry and Meghan on 24/7 divorce watch. It's going to happen. But he's a right piece of work, that Brooklyn. Did you know that he snubbed his own grandfather, Tony Adams, right? Victoria's dad, didn't wish him a happy birthday. And yet days before, he'd posted an emotional tribute to a woman he barely knew, Nicola's late grandmother, Bunny. Said, it was so terrible, it was so missed. Well, okay, well, we miss old Granny Bunny, that's fine. But maybe you want to send out a message to your actual grandfather who's still alive and still on the planet. It's truly obscene. And I feel so sorry for David, but what can you do? You don't choose your family, do you? It's a tough, tough story, and I hope that some kind of rapprochement will happen. But it will only happen when those two divorce and Brooklyn comes back and says, I'm sorry. Will that happen? Well, I think it will. I think there's time. Because luckily, unlike with King Charles and Harry, David's a fit and healthy young man and there is time. But still, Brooklyn, wake up. Divorce that woman and go and sort your life out. Go and see your family and say sorry to everyone. Folks, it's been great to chat. Cannot wait to see you for the next video. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next time. Love you loads. Bye for now. The sun is out. The sky is blue. There's not a cloud to spoil the view, but it's raining, raining in my heart. The weatherman says clear today. He doesn't know you've gone away and it's raining, raining in my heart. Now, I love this bit. It's called a bridge. Oh, misery, misery, what's gonna become of me? Back to the verse. I tell my blues they mustn't show, but soon these tears are bound to flow, 'cause it's raining, raining in my heart.